Welcome back to Real Push Podcast. I'm your host, Bernard Chamo. That is our co-host, Dominic Shaba. Joining us today is a woman who has built businesses from the ground up. She is a leader on the front line of civic services. She was a respected voice in accountability, transparency, and integrity. She's a devoted wife, a loving mother of three. Her strength in leadership is only matched by her heart for her family and community. She is the Republican candidate for Michigan Secretary of State. She is the one and only Monica Yatooma.
Thank you, Bernard. That was really, you made me sound way cooler, I think, than what I actually am.
Well, I think you've certainly earned it, Monica. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you guys both having me here today.
Absolutely. Monica, we know you are running for the Michigan Secretary of State. Before we get to where you're going, why don't you take us back to where it started, what inspired you into getting into politics, and kind of the path you've been on?
Yeah, definitely. So before 2020, I actually was not political at all. Right. So I just lived in my little bubble with my husband and my kids, and we ran our businesses, and that was the extent of it. Right. 2020 came, and it was a very interesting election. Right. So I think we all went to bed thinking Donald Trump was going to be our president. We woke up and we got Joe Biden, and everybody's like, whoa, what just happened? So I was like super frustrated. So I called my state representative who I had a relationship with, and I said, can you just explain to me how something like this happens? And how can I get involved? Because I feel like the people running the party are incompetent, and we need more competent people to step up and help out. And he said, Monica, he's like, most people think they should just jump in and run for Senate or Congress or a state Senate seat. And he said, don't do that. He said, become a precinct delegate. So what a lot of people don't know is that the Michigan Republican Party, the Michigan Democrat Party is made up of delegates across the state. And you have to put your name on the ballot and run to get this position. But there's, I don't know how many thousands of delegates across the state. And that's the lifeline of the party. And so he said, become a precinct delegate, go to the events, network, get to know these people, and really you'll learn that way. So I did. I became a precinct delegate. I ran and I won, and I've been one ever since. And so it afforded me the opportunity to go to different events and network with these other delegates, but really to learn the inner workings of the party and how everything works. And I got to take a look at, elections and election integrity and how 2020 happened the way that it did. And so from there, I ran on that. And then as you guys know, in 22, when was COVID? Was it 21? 2020, yeah, 21.
March and 20, yeah.
Yeah, so shortly after that, COVID hit, and I was just like losing my mind, right? The lockdowns, the mandates, and masking our kids. And I was going to school board meetings, and my kids are in a Catholic school, but I just felt like that didn't matter. I still pay taxes for public schools, and it's all about community, right? We got to help each other. So I would go to these public school board meetings, and I would speak. And I would say, this is not okay, and this is why. And I'd get other parents to speak. At some point, I riled up, 1,500 other parents. We ended up on the doorsteps of the Board of Commissioners in Oakland County, just trying to figure out how to get these masks off our kids. And then I got to a point where I said, enough. Got with another parent and this attorney and said, can we file a lawsuit? Do we have any standing, something? And the attorney said, yes. So I went out, raised some money, spent some of my own money. We filed this lawsuit in Oakland County to have the mask mandate dropped, and it worked. Yeah. And the rest of the counties across the state followed. And that was like my up and coming.
That was calling.
That was it. And I was like, all right, now I'm done because I'm exhausted. But then in 22, the Democrats took what we call a trifecta. So for the last 40 years before 22, Republicans always had the majority in Michigan. They ran everything.
Yep.
Then 22 came, and that all changed. So I thought, oh no, with them in charge, having the majority, there's going to be nothing in their way passing laws. And I knew that they were going to come for the kids in the schools. It was always part of their agenda. So we took the attorneys from the lawsuit, and we started Great Education Initiative, a 501c3, to help parents win school board races, because we realized how important it was to have conservative people on these school boards. But it was also so that we can provide the training and support that they needed to win these races, but also use the laws to protect them from the DEI, the CRT, but especially the rogue sex education. And so that was my start.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us, by the way. There's a lot to peel back there. You got me thinking back to 2020. I went to bed the same way, and I had that same feeling when I woke up that next morning. And so it kind of changed my vision on things as well. So you take this big initiative, you're working with the school districts. I think a lot of your priority is focusing on election integrity, and obviously the schools, as you spoke about. Tell us about GEI. I know you were co-founder of GEI. I know you're director of development as well. Yeah. Did that come around the same time as you were going through the political scene?
Yes. So GEI came first, Great Education Initiative. That was the 501c3. And that was really to just give power back to the parents. It was to empower parents. And so that's what we spent our time doing. And we were filing lawsuits and doing all these things. Well, we were so effective that this law that we were working off of, it's a law for sex education here in Michigan to protect families so they can opt out. The Democrats amended it, right? So they amended it so that before there used to be an administrative process. So if we sued on behalf of these families, it was relatively inexpensive. But they amended it to take away the administrative process. So then if we wanted to sue, we'd have to go straight to court. So instead of these cases costing us $5,000 to $10,000, they were automatically starting at a $25,000 mark. And then so we had to be very picky and choosy about which cases we took. But that was the goal of the 501c3 until we realized in doing all this work, okay, we need to be able to get politically engaged, because with a C3, you can't get politically engaged, but with a C4, you can. So then I created Great Education Action, which is the 501c4. So I'm director of strategic partnerships at the C3, but I'm the director of the C4 because that was my background, the political stuff. So I ran that. I went out and I raised a ton of money. But the goal of the C4 was to help candidates with our same values, conservative values, to get elected into different positions, not just school board races. So we had two goals for 24: help Trump win and take back the majority in the Republican state house. And that's why the C4 was created.
Yeah, I got you. You know, you talk about the timeline of GEI, and I was doing a little bit of homework on you, Dominic and I. You got to meet 45.
I did.
You got to meet 45. I think that was in 2024. We saw him get elected. Tell us about that experience and tell us everything that ties into the Republican conservative values, as you mentioned.
Well, so, and something I missed that I just want to touch on, because everybody always asks, how did you get into all this? The reason I started the C3 and the C4 is because the state party, I realized, was not doing anything, and it was a huge gap. So, you know, naturally, I'm somebody who likes to be more action oriented instead of just talk about something. So that's where the C3 and the C4 came from. But as far as the conservative values, obviously during the election, I was going to get behind Donald Trump because the alternative wasn't an option, because the alternative wanted to limit rights and take away our liberties. And so I'm not for that. I've never been for that. And so it just seemed like the right choice to get behind 47.
47.
Yeah. So we did that. And so through the C4, what we did is we hired phone bankers, door knockers. We did a lot of voter education and outreach throughout the entire state. And we did a lot of voter registration. So I don't know how much you guys know about the Chaldean community as far as, election processes, but voter turnout is not very high. So we're conservative by nature, the majority of us at least, right?
Why do you think that is?
I don't think they've been educated on the importance of voting. They don't. They just, when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, other people will vote; it'll be fine." But it's not going to be fine.
Is it fair to say we've had the biggest turnout to date so far? I would say in the last election, just on the circles that we're in, there was a lot of people, I feel like, that echoed your sentiments, echoed your thoughts. They were fed up with what was taking place, particularly at the school level, and I think a lot of them came out of their shell and started voting. And I would also say this, it's the story you went back to in 2020. A lot of them may have lost faith in the voting system. Was that a fair point?
That's a very fair point. I think the education was a huge one for parents, because a lot of these Chaldeans are parents, right? And the other thing too is COVID. People realized, I hope they realized during COVID, how much local politics matters more than federal politics, because the local controls our life. I learned that during that process. I woke up every day thinking, how are they doing this? How are they getting away with this?
Wild times.
Yeah.
Wild times, yeah.
It was crazy. So one of the projects, I went out and raised all this money. I raised about $1 million in a year. And one of the projects I focused on was Chaldean voter outreach and turnout. So we hired people and stationed them at all the churches in Southeast Michigan, Chaldean churches, to register people to vote. Yeah. And it was super successful. So that voter turnout that sat at 32%, in 24, we took it to 76%.
Wow. Wow.
Especially in Macomb. Macomb was one of the biggest counties that we had a lot of action and door knockers in.
Yeah.
So it was huge. It was huge for Trump in Macomb. It helped us take back the state house. So, but what it really did was it proved, because I wanted to test this theory, right? It proved that when there's voter education and when you're going to people and getting them registered to vote and talking to them and having these conversations, they realize, oh, okay, this is important. This matters. I need to do it.
Yeah. And I would say also, Monica, we're successful entrepreneurs as Chaldeans. There's a lot of things we do in businesses where the political landscape really shapes what direction we want to go into. certainly want to talk about your family, want to talk about fundraising. But I think since we're on the topic, I want to look forward and then work our way back. Mm-hmm. You look at November 3rd, 2026. That's Michigan voting for the Secretary of State. You look at the primaries, August 3rd of 2026. There's a lot of intra-party voting. I know there's a lot of unfamiliarity with how that works. Educate us, educate our viewers about the intra. Am I saying it right? Is it the intra? Yeah, party voting. How does a candidate like you get on the ballot for the Michigan Secretary of State nomination?
So it's a great question. So, because a lot of people don't know this.
Sure.
So Michigan is one of the states where the role of Attorney General and Secretary of State, that candidate is actually decided by the party delegates. I talked about them a little earlier. Right. There's a nominating process. We have this nominating convention around March, April timeframe. So for me in 25, my nominating convention is going to be March 28th. Okay. So there's gonna be about
this coming March 28th?
This coming March 28th, right? So versus the primary in August.
Sure, yep.
And so these delegates, about 2,500 of them, I would say, get nominated to go to convention. So they have to win it's a small race, but they have to win to get nominated to go. And the ones that get nominated to go get the vote to decide who our next Attorney General and Secretary of State candidate is gonna be for the August primary and the November ballot. So it's essentially to nominate so that once we do that in March, we have time to really run a good, effective campaign against the Democrat candidate. Because if we wait until August, we don't have much time until the absentee ballots go out. And so it's hard to raise money and really compete.
What does the campaigning look like before March? Like, what is it? What's the scene behind it?
Yeah. So honestly, I'm never home. I'm somewhere every day. So you've got 83 counties, you've got over 4,500 precincts, you've got over 5,000 delegates across the state. And it's a big state. And, you've got the Upper Peninsula. So they all have their own Lincoln Day dinners, right? So that's a tradition in the Republican Party.
Somebody has one today.
Yes, I have one today in Macomb. I have the Macomb Lincoln Day dinner. Yeah. Yes. So, so they all have their different events, and our job is to show up and speak. And we get our 5 or 10 minutes with them to speak. But then, of course, there's Q&A and there's personal conversations that are had. But we get our 5 or 10 minutes to really make our pitch and say, this is why I'm the best candidate. And then when we get to convention, they decide who they're going to nominate. Again, this is for SOS and AG.
Yeah. So what does somebody do to support the process? What are some fundraising events coming up? What do we have to look forward to in that regard? Yeah.
So while it might be a delegate race, I like to tell people, fundraising is really important to help me get through the primary, but also if anybody ever wants to volunteer, we can always use help for, various reasons. But as far as fundraisers, we just had one last week. It was our first one. And I'm sure we will do another one. There are people, that want to host private fundraisers, so we'll do a lot of those too. And so, that's typically what it'll be from now until March.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Tell us a little bit. I know Dom's got some questions. Let's get a little bit personal. Tell us, you got 3 beautiful kids. We were talking off topic about your oldest going to high school. You've been married. Obviously, you're married. Tell us about the family, the balance, the work life. Tell us what that looks like for you.
Well, it's certainly a lot. I've always been an overachiever. I got married young and had my kids young. I've been married for 16 years now. And I have a great marriage, and I have a great marriage because my husband is so supportive. Like, he knew what he married. He's like, all right, she's a little crazy, but it's a good crazy. And she's strong, she's independent. And, he just knows when I put my mind to something, I go out and I do it. Like, I went to Oakland University. I finished college in 3 years. I don't know why I was in such a rush, but I just wanted to do it to say I did it, right? And so from there, I was supposed to go to law school. And then my husband proposed, and he's like, do you really need to go? And I'm like, oh, maybe not. Now I kind of wish I did, though, with everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up finishing law school. But I went on, and my background is actually sales. And so I did pharmaceutical sales and device sales. And I say everything happens for a reason, because if I didn't work for the company that I did, I wouldn't have been able to start the business that I own now, which is a medical waste management company.
Correct.
I learned all that working for a larger national company until I was top sales rep in the country. And I looked at my husband one day and I said, I can do this for myself, And so we did. And so I remember looking at him and I said to him, I can do this, but I need your money to do it. And he said, okay, no problem. So we did it. And it's been great. It's been 15 years now, and it's been great. So managing that. And then I had my kids. I had them back to back. My oldest is 14. You want to do the math, I'm 38. So my oldest is 14. My son is 12 and my daughter is 11. So I got a young start, got it done quick. My mom was young, so I knew I wanted to do that too. But I always in my gut, I felt like by the time I'm 40, I want to make sure that I'm free enough so I can do something. I just always knew I wanted to do something big. Like I always felt like I was meant for more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm running a company, helping my husband, with he owns multiple businesses. And I think a huge part of it is, we put God in the center of our marriage and the center of our family, but also we're such a good team. We've always had each other's back, always supported each other. And he always props me up. You want to do this? Okay, great. But he knows I'm always a million miles a minute. He's like, wait, let's lay this out. So he helps me make things make sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a partner like that.
Yes.
Now with business that you opened, all the nonprofit stuff that you've done, you've ran for local office. What was the sharpest lesson in leadership that you've learned, and how are you going to take that to the role of Secretary of State?
I've learned so much, but I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned is if you're really truly going to be a leader, there's so many different personalities you need to work with, whether it's in my business or in the nonprofit. You need to be able to be a leader for everybody, not just a certain group or a certain subset. And I think that's important going to the Secretary of State's office, because while I'm running as the Republican candidate, we're a pretty split state. So half of people are Republican, half of people are Democrat, and then you've got some in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But you need a leader that has a vision for everybody and that will work for everybody, not just a certain group of people. And so that's something that I'm really good at. And I think that's why I've been able to be successful, because I can speak to different personalities. I'm open to conversations, and I'm very solution oriented. So if someone doesn't disagree with me, that's okay. But we're not going to argue about it. We're going to have a conversation. And what's the solution where you're meeting me halfway and I can meet you halfway?
Yeah, I love it. Great question, by the way, Dominic. I love that answer. Monica. A lot of what Dominic and I do professionally in real estate, it's unfortunate to say, it's fortunate to say we've been very blessed and successful in our business. It's unfortunate to say, even in the last year or two, we might get clients or to call us and ask us if we're Trumpers, or ask us if
it does happen.
Ask us what side of the aisle we're on. And I think from a career standpoint, a professional standpoint, the Lord and Savior is our Jesus Christ. He's at the foundation of everything we do. But we don't discuss much of that politics. But it just goes to show you what's happened in the last 5-6 years in this country with the difference of opinions. I love that answer. It's all about being able to shake hands on both sides of the aisle.
Finding a solution. Being politically driven to pick your real estate agents, it's kind of deep.
That's extreme.
But why does it matter? How does it affect your job or what you guys are doing? You're still good at your job, whether you support Joe Biden or whether you support Donald Trump.
Very true.
But unfortunately, all people have been programmed to believe that this divisiveness is what we need, and the other side is Nazis, and we have to save the country. It's all this rhetoric that really, really riles people up. So I kind of understand where they're coming from. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, our country depends on this. We have to save our country. These are terrible people, which is the wrong message entirely, and it's completely untrue.
Yeah. Yeah. Monica, I want to ask you, when you were speaking about your kids and your husband, your entire face changed. You were glowing. You were in a whole nother world. They say when you're feeling the most helpless, you become the most helpful. Was there a moment or a situation that happened with your kids in school where you said, okay, enough's enough. This is my purpose? Yeah.
So my oldest, Sloan, was having major issues with anxiety, and the mask was not helping.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
Imagine.
But then my youngest had issues with speech delay. So masking her put her behind even more.
You can't see the mouth. You can't see what the people are saying. Yeah.
No. And she was really struggling. She's a smart kid, but she was really struggling. And I felt bad for her. She always struggled with reading and doing spelling, anything where she had to sound words out, because, her R's sounded different. Her T's, her S's, the harder ones, right? And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to bring a speech therapist to my home. But how many families can't afford that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not just that, I just would watch her struggle, and I thought, why? Like, where's the science? They kept saying, oh, kids are super spreaders, but where's the science on this? Why are my kids having to struggle? And so I went on a deep dive, and I got to the point where I was like, this is enough. She had a breakdown at one point, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this to her. Like, I'm her parent. I got to stand up for her, especially my older one who was really having major anxiety. I felt so bad for her. She was really struggling. And so I was like, this is it. I got to do something.
That was your calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that moment.
When it comes to our kids, it's just, it's just different. You know, you want to protect them.
For
I just
sure.
want to protect them.
For sure.
You know?
Definitely. Now going back to the office stuff. I know it's a little bit of back and forth, but when you do get into office,
We're going to manifest it.
Want to grab your coffee?
Can I?
Yeah, yeah, bring it. Yeah, absolutely.
Audrey.
Audrey, say hello. Tell us
Audrey's
about Audrey real quick.
Oh, Audrey.
yeah, give us a breakdown.
So Audrey is my lead of advance and my scheduler. She's also my lifesaver.
Yeah.
She keeps me on track, and she's the person, because, you know, I have a million things going on, right? She's like, Monica, we need to be here at this time. We're going to be here at this time. And this person called, can you do this event? So that's Audrey. She's got my
It's
back.
all about the behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
Yeah.
when we were on your social, we're like, oh yeah, she props out Audrey. That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well done, young lady. You got a future in
you.
politics? All right.
you
You
go.
got
There
a
you
good
go.
mentor. You got a good
Thanks,
mentor.
Bernard.
You got a good
Thank
mentor.
you.
Dom, go ahead. You had a
Yeah.
question.
So when you get into office, what does the first 100 days look like as Secretary of State?
So I'm going to need to get in there, and I want to completely rebuild that office so that we can rebuild public trust into the Secretary of State's office, but especially into our elections. And I'm going to be honest with you. Day one, I'm going to commission a full forensic audit and into all the issues and all the fraud, and anybody that's been undermining our election processes is going to be held accountable. I'm going to work with the next AG, who God willing will be a Republican, to fully prosecute these people and hold them accountable.
So you think there has been something with elections somewhere, somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been testimony on it in the state house. There's a lot of different things, whether, you know, it's the fraud with the absentee ballots, it's the bloated voter rolls, you know, and I'll just give you a quick example. We've got 8.4 million people on our voter rolls, right? But there's only 7.9 million in this state that are of eligible voting age.
Yeah.
Who else is on these voter rolls? Is it dead people? Is it duplicates? How about these non-citizens? Like, did you guys know our driver's license and in a non-citizen's driver's license looks exactly the same? So if they went to the poll to vote, how would an election worker know that they're a non-citizen if we're not verifying citizenship to vote? It's not a law. You don't need ID to vote. You can sign an affidavit.
Yeah, true.
So these are major issues.
Now, to play devil's advocate on that, when did that come up? Was it during COVID? Was it before? Because you were saying mainly Republican ran. So someone could say and go back and say, well, it could be the Republicans that were doing it.
We never had these major issues when we had, and it was always a Republican in the Secretary of State's office until Jocelyn Benson came in 2018.
Gotcha.
And then in 2020, she issued absentee ballot applications to every registered voter in the state. So it didn't matter if it was an inactive voter, the voter rolls weren't clean. So we didn't know who these ballots were going to.
Flooded it, yeah.
And she used COVID as her excuse. This is why they needed to usher in COVID, right? The elections were huge. It was a big part of this. So that was, she was sued, and she's been sued multiple times. So, when people send in their ballots, they have to sign them. You're supposed to ensure signature verification, but she put a directive out to the clerk saying, oh, just make sure it's good enough. You don't really need to validate the signature. Well, who's signing it? Who's turning in these ballots?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she's just done all these things to weaken election integrity. And now we have something called UACAVA. So for our military personnel and our overseas voters, they have the right to vote still, right? But now she just went to, she bypassed the legislature and went through a administration called JCAR to change the rules so that these voters can sign their ballots electronically. How are you supposed to verify that?
You can.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So all this, I can keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. No, we understand. Point well emphasized. I want to ask you, Arab American, Chaldean, Dominic and I are Chaldean. We have a lot of mutual friends just based off the people we follow on social media. Influential, impactful, they make a difference. Do you feel like your stage is that much more magnified out of a state of 9 million people, almost our Chaldean community? Do you feel like there's a bigger chip on your shoulder to get into office and start doing the right things, to not only represent the entire state of Michigan, the people that believe in, but make an impact along Chaldean community as well?
Yeah, listen, I'm prideful of my community and I want to make them proud. And this is a big deal. We've never had a Chaldean Secretary of State.
Yeah.
We've never had a Chaldean, get this politically engaged and do all the things that I've been able to do and all these great people that I've been able to meet. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is so great. How did you do this? How did you get there? Can you invite me? Can I come? And I'm like, do you understand what it took to get here? I don't sleep. But I want to make the community proud, but I want to give us a voice. And I would like to hopefully show other people in the community that you can do this too. I am nobody special. I'm just somebody that's really hardworking. And when I set my mind on something, I'm a fast learner. I'm a hard worker. And so with those two traits, in my mind, I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
But I want everybody to feel that way too, especially in our community.
Yeah, look, I think you've already made us proud. I think most importantly, you're making your family proud. You're making the people in the state of Michigan proud. You talked about events and you talked about people and you talked about getting in the right rooms. What's looking ahead look like in terms of fundraising for you? Anything you want to tell us? Anything we can share on content to maybe help magnify the fundraising campaign?
Yeah. So listen, the Secretary of State is certainly it's not a sexy position, right? It's not something that people think about.
One.
Yeah.
But it's an important one. It's right now, it's more important than the governor role or even the attorney general role because it is in charge of the Secretary of State is the chief election officer of this state. You can't change law as Secretary of State, but you can change rules. And the directives that you give to clerks across the state comes from you. You're at the top of the chain, right? But also the Secretary of State is in charge of the Secretary of State offices. Something that affects the everyday voter, doesn't matter how you vote. And these offices have not been the most efficient either, right? I mean, these offices operate from the hours of 9 to 4. How many working families do you know can get in there during those hours, right? So we want to get in there and make this an office that works for every Michigan family or resident.
Let me ask you, great topic, by the way. I feel like they've come a long way, I'm going to say it, from 2020 in terms of streamlining things with going online and registering in tabs. What's the next level look like in terms of streamlining the Secretary of State offices? That's a big one that everybody wants to hear about now.
True.
Yeah. So I feel like our generation, we're younger, we like the online stuff. But as I travel the state and talk to people, the older people don't like it at all.
Nope.
They don't know how to use it.
They don't know how to use it.
And they miss just going into the office and being able to talk to somebody.
True.
And they miss just good customer service and not being berated because they're walking in and don't have an appointment. And then what a lot of people don't realize is our more rural areas, like up north, you guys realize we have a huge Amish population.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
They don't use electronics.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they registering to vote? How are they getting their driver's licensing, their tags and all that stuff? They're having a hard time. So one of the things I want to do is make sure that they have access to mobile Secretary of State units so that they can get what they need too. But also, we really want to streamline these processes. I don't know if you guys have had this experience where you make an appointment to go to the office and then, the communication isn't great. You get there and they're like, well, you need X, Y, and Z documents. Sorry, you have to come back. So it happens to a lot of people. And so I want to make sure if you're making an appointment, you're making one trip. So we're going to give you that text message and that email that says, this is what you need to bring with you. And if for some reason you can't have it, I'd like to set up some sort of printing station so you can get some access, print off what you need if it's something that you can, so that we can limit the number of times you're coming to the office. Because that doesn't just help you, right? It helps our clerks that work in the Secretary of State's office because they complain that the customers are always mean and grumpy. And it's like, well,
I can say that.
Can you blame them? So we want our employees to be to be happy too. And so that's just some of the stuff that I'd like to do. But also, it's appointment only. I'd like to get back to some sort of hybrid so that we'll dedicate a day or a day and a half to walk-ins so that people can still walk in because there are some people that might not know how to make an appointment, might have access to a computer to make an appointment. And so we want to make sure they're getting taken care of too.
Yeah, it sounds like you're listening to both sides.
I have another question. For the younger ladies out there that are looking to make a difference, that are looking to get into the political arena, what's some advice to them?
Well, first, never stop trying because you're going to hit hurdles. But my advice to them would be, figure out what you want to do or how you want to get involved. Through Turning Point USA, there's high school club chapters, there's college chapters. That is a fantastic way to get your feet wet and really learn the political process. But look up your local parties if you really want to get involved politically. Become a precinct delegate. Go to the events. What I'm noticing ever since Charlie Kirk's death is a lot of the younger crowd is starting to get more involved.
True.
And it's been really nice to see. And so I encourage it. And I would tell all young ladies, get involved. If you're willing to work hard, there's not anything you really can't do. I know there's so much pressure on these kids coming from everywhere and, to take these AP classes and make sure you're straight A's and all this stuff. But you know what? The classroom setting is not for everybody. And that's okay.
That's more evident now than ever.
Yeah.
There's no question. We're not saying don't get that degree, but there's a lot more other ideas or opportunities where you can exercise what you want to do and what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And listen, when you're boxing kids in a room for 8 hours a day, that's tough, right? Not everybody does well learning that way and they don't thrive that way. So I want to tell these young kids, especially women, don't let that be what measures your worth. You decide what your worth is. And if you're willing to work hard, and if you're willing to be open and to be open to learning something new, but if you're open to criticism and feedback, then you will do well in life and you can do whatever you want to do. I've never been a sensitive person. So anytime I do something and someone's like, oh, you didn't do that right, or it should have been like this, I don't get upset. I just say, okay, how do I do it better?
Yeah.
And I go and I do that.
Feedback's a gift sometimes.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feedback's a gift sometimes. Monica, we talked a little bit about family. We talked about politics. We talked about the path ahead, November 3rd, 2026, the primaries. You took us into March. What's been on your mind, maybe we don't know about, that you'd wanted to mention in terms of either it's politics or change in the state, anything kind of keeps you up at night? Besides what you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this keeps me up at night, but something I want to touch on that a lot of people don't realize is that for our car dealership owners, our mechanic shop owners, and anybody in that arena, their licensing comes from the Secretary of State. And so I know that, as entrepreneurs, they've been struggling under Jocelyn Benson because there's just a lot of red tape. And so I want them to know that making life easier for our business owners, at least in that sector, is going to be a top priority for me. I want to cut that red tape, deregulate, and make sure that they can get to work. Because if, they're not stressing about surprise inspections from Jocelyn Benson's office.
So many regulations.
Yeah, so many regulations. And they can go out, they can sell more cars, they can hire more people. And that's a great contribution to our Michigan economy, which we need more than ever now. People are leaving in droves. So just something else for people to think about it, when it comes to the Secretary of State's office, because I think people just think, oh, elections, oh, driver's licenses, but there's so much more to it too. The other thing too is when Jocelyn Benson got into office, so our car registrations were always based on the weight of the car.
True.
Yeah. She changed it when she got in and is based on MSRP. So now they're so expensive, especially if you drive a nice car.
Oh, that's crazy.
We're talking about the tax?
Yeah.
Yeah. 6,000. It used to be 6,000 pounds, right?
Yeah. So it's not based on weight anymore. And the reason she did that is because, the Democrats like to push electric vehicles. Well, the electric vehicles, because of their batteries, are super heavy. So it's part of the electric vehicle
They suck
push.
in the winter. They're not good in the winter.
They're terrible. But
Yeah.
so she changed it to registration being based on MSRP.
Yeah.
And so I want people to know we're going to change that back to being based on weight.
Yeah, that's the tax write-off, correct?
Yes.
It's a big one.
And not
That's
just
huge.
that, but you have to renew your registration every year. We're not going to do that anymore. It's going to stay with the life of the car. It's just we don't need tags. It's a waste of money because
That's a big play.
Yeah, it's huge. It puts more money back in everyday citizens' pockets, but it saves the state a ton of money.
Yeah, got it. So Jocelyn's predecessor was Ruth Johnson?
Yes.
So 2019, she said she's had 2 terms as well?
Yep, she did.
Any ties to Ruth? Any conversations?
Yeah, Ruth and I have had lunch. We talk often. Ruth is great. She's somebody that I admire a lot. I respect a lot. And I look up to a lot of what she did because I'd like to implement a lot of what she did. Obviously, I take it to the next level and there's more things I want to do, but that's just, the stuff she did is a bare minimum. She was a great Secretary of State.
Yeah. Monica, if it wasn't entrepreneurship and your businesses and politics, where you see yourself in a different career? What would it be?
I probably would have been a lawyer.
You've been a lawyer?
I would have been a lawyer.
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah, for sure.
As well. I can see it as well.
Yeah.
Dom, did you want to leave us with something that we should be able to share? Talk about fundraising one more time. Are there any events that we can help out in? Give us some info so we can help you get that momentum. That's a big reason we were so proud of getting the opportunity to sit on with you. So
thank you.
Give us a nugget that we can take.
I want to say this. If you're not a delegate, it's super easy to become one if you're interested at all. But also you can contact your local precinct delegates and say, hey, I really like Monica Yatooma. If you're going to go to convention, I really want you to vote for her.
Okay.
The other thing too, again, we talked about fundraising. It's super important, but so people understand why the fundraising helps. It helps with travel costs, outreach costs. It helps with our messaging and getting it out to all these thousands of delegates across the state. And so, fundraising is really important. But also as I travel a state and I speak at all these events, they're all sponsorships. So I pay to sponsor to speak at all these events and it adds up, right? So fundraising is important. And if anybody's interested in, hosting a private fundraiser or just donating or just sharing the message, that's always helpful. So the fundraising and then obviously volunteer opportunities, you can go to monicaformichigan.com. It's just all spelled out, FOR, and then Michigan is spelled out.
We'll add that link on the podcast also.
Sure.
Yeah, ton of information there. You can donate, you can volunteer, but also I want to stress it one more time. You can contact your precinct delegates and just say, hey, I really like Monica Yatooma.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Good stuff. We are grateful for your time today. We know you got a busy day. You got a wonderful path moving forward. I wanted to say it from the beginning, devoted wife, loving mother of 3. She is the powerhouse Republican candidate running for Michigan Secretary of State, amongst other accolades. The superlatives can go on and on.
Well, can I
Monica.
add one? Actually, I totally forgot a good,
Please.
really. So I think people are going to look and be like, well, can she win? What are her chances? So you guys know they've done a couple of different polls, and one of them's a really big one at the Mackinac Leadership Conference. I won that poll, right?
way,
So I'm
nice.
leading the polls.
How many people on that ballot?
4.
4.
Yes.
Got it,
Or I
got
think
it.
it's going to end up being 3 at convention because, and this is another added cost, we have to pay $10,000 just to be at the convention to get our name on the ballot at convention. And I think, I don't know if all the candidates will have that, but I know 3 will for sure. So I will say there are 3 in our race for sure.
Got it. And then that's March, and then August, and then the big one in November.
Yeah, March 28th is mine. And then if I'm nominated in March 28th, then I'll be on the ballot in November.
Beautiful,
Nice.
beautiful. We'll make sure to share the link. We'll have some great pieces that we can put out from today. And we've learned a lot too. Not only did we learn a lot from you as a person and your beliefs, we learned a lot about the political landscape in terms of Secretary of State and some of the things that they're looking to change. We thank you so much for your time today. We wish you the greatest success on your path moving forward. You're keeping everybody proud, the Chaldean culture
Thank you.
specifically, and we're excited to see what happens.
I appreciate that.
That's
Thank you
Dominic
both so
Shaba.
much.
I'm Bernard Shambo. That is Monica Yatooma. Thanks for tuning in.